Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton with my awesome co-host here, Zach. Sorry, it changes sides every time we record. Uh, everyone, we weren't planning on doing a pod. I feel like we're saying this every week, and then the Rams do something a little nuts. And the Rams trade Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins. They haven't made any other big moves as of the 13th, so Monday. Zach, what's your initial reaction? So we trade Ramsey away for a third round pick and a tight end. How you doing? Because this has been controversial, to say the least.
It definitely has been controversial. I think everyone kind of admits that as far as the Rams go, um, it probably wasn't the most business friendly deal. If you're a Rams fan, I feel like you probably felt like you were undercut, and for rightfully so. I think Jalen Ramsey is way worth a third round pick and a tight end that's pretty much unknown and unproven in the NFL. So it's definitely an interesting take. But the one thing that I can say is I think the Rams did do right by Ramsey. It seemed like Florida was, Miami was where he wanted to go. He mentioned that in his tweets that he was praying about it over the last couple of weeks, that he would be able to move there. And, it just seems like it's probably a good fit for him. The writing was on the wall. As much as even I said that I thought that he was going to stay, um, you know, I, I never thought that they would get, move on from him for just a third round pick, but they did. And that's the deal that was dealt. And, we're going to have to move forward with it. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, um, I wish I was the wrong one on this side of opinions, Zach, when we've been kind of going over this on the pod. I really wish you were right. I wanted him to stay. I didn't think the benefits, at least for next year, were gonna be big enough if we didn't get a certain amount in return. And I didn't know if that market was there or not, right? Like, I'm not a GM, I'm not getting calls. Uh, I have no clue the kind of market other teams are looking at for him. And if you told me a third round pick and this tight end, I would have said no. And I understand, guys, we did listen to 11 Personnel podcast. I would recommend listening to that first. Um, Coming back, and it gives you idea kind of at least what the team was thinking and approaching this from. And it's just a little nuts to me that they weren't. I don't even think they were getting second round picks, Zach, as offers. And in my mind, you're only saving 5 mil next year, or yeah, next season. And yes, we get a lot of cap savings in 2024 because of this. Uh, but this is a team that I feel like their tone is coming off as they don't expect to be contenders, but they want to be competitive. And I understand that kind of mindset because it feels like the front office trying not to lose McVay, but also have a rebuild. And it's hard to do both at the same time. And you're sending the fan base mixed signals. Uh, I feel like you're sending mixed signals as a strategy that's causing teams to know you're sailing, and you're getting a third round pick for a Pro Bowl. Now, I would have been upset if we got a second round pick, but it would have been, if it was a high second round pick, it would have been annoying, but at least a decent enough pick in the top 50 where you can get a respectable, not respectable, but you get a higher percentage chance of hitting on that pick. And it's just, they kind of painted themselves into a corner. And I understand they made a hard line, and this is at least, you tell me, Zach, if you disagree. It feels like they made a hard line on 2024. We are not having any extra cap, dead cap. We're not having any money on the books 2024. Does that mean they're going all in 2024? I have no clue. Does that mean 2024 is still another rebuilding year? no clue. And guys, don't get hung up on remodel, rebuild. The words don't matter. It's the strategy. Zach, do you believe that's the direction they're going? Is no cap 2024?
I think that is kind of where we're seeing them move towards. Um, it's they're kind of you brought something up and it does resonate, and it's kind of been shown is like the Rams were showing their hand. I mean, the Rams were over the cap. They had to figure out how they were going to get under the cap. And so the rumors were flying around. I mean, they released Bobby Wagner, a player who was dominant for that team, the only player who was really dominant in the 2022 season. You had the trade rumors around Jalen Ramsey up until this point. Leonard Floyd, not even trying to really find a trade for him. They say trade or cut, and if no one's going to trade for you if you knew that player is going to get cut and you're going to be able to pick him up without having to provide any draft capital. Then you have the Allen Robinson, trying to find him a home, whether he finds a home or not. I mean, the Rams will keep him, obviously, if that's the case. But then you just look at the list of free
Will
agents that
they?
are out there. Well, I mean, they have to. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to
Ye-
cut him. They will save zero money in that deal, and they'll eat way more dead cap than they can. So I don't think that they can cut him. They would have to trade him to make it any sort of a smart move. Not saying that the Rams are making smart moves, but it is what it is. I mean, it's a fire sale. It seems like. I mean, you have free agents like, and we'll talk maybe a little about them in a minute, but like Nick Scott, Greg Gaines, Copeland, Matt Gay, even
It
Baker
sounds like
Mayfield.
we're not going to re-sign almost anyone.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it looks like, and so we'll kind of go through that in a minute. But the only thing, so Ramsey goes to Miami for a third rounder, and we get Hunter Long, which we'll talk
There goes your
about him in
pick
a minute.
idea, second round for a tight end.
I know that really just blows that
Unless
one
if
up
we
out of the
trade
water.
Higby, which I still think is on the table,
Well, we
honestly.
can't. I mean, he's a free agent, so it wouldn't even be trading him.
Higby?
It just, yeah. I thought Higby is a free agent. I can
No.
look that up in a minute.
I
He's
think he's
still
a
under
free
contract.
agent two. Yeah, I think he's on contract for 2 years. Double check
Uh,
that, but
yeah,
um,
but he only saves. I mean, he had opened up 5.6 million in cap space. We're still technically over the cap by a couple million, and we have less than 48 hours to
and
get
I
that.
know what everyone is saying. Yes, we understand they save a lot of money by doing this in 2024. Okay, but this is a team that is saying it wants to be competitive, right, Zach?
Right.
Next year. But yet you trade your second best, some say best defensive player from last year. Aaron Donald was hurt most of the year. Is either Bobby Wagner or Ramsey. You cut one, you traded the other, and you're still trying to say you want to be competitive. It and then you want to say you're doing it because you want to refocus on the offensive side of the ball. Who you think you're going to get in the draft in the third round? Like
Right.
you haven't been drafting Cooper Cups in the third round. You haven't even got another Cooper Cup in the second round. So it colored me skeptical. Now, hey, uh, they could hit on every draft pick in the next year's draft, Zach. And if they reload, they can be competitive in theory if they hit on every draft pick. And the Rams have missed a lot of their picks in the last 2 years. Let's just be frank, guys. They have been hitting, or they've been missing a lot of hits in the draft.
And
And
you
most
were you
of
were right about Higby. Higby is still under contract through 2024.
Yeah. So you're talking about a team that has mostly gotten all of its talent through trades, saying we're not trading anymore. We're selling our players, if anything else. And they have no money in free agency to sign anyone this next year. and you're telling me you want to be competitive.
I mean, just
Now,
listen to
I
this. Listen to this notable free agents that are up. You have
mhm,
Coleman Shelton, which I think is a must resign. Troy Hill, David Long,
okay,
Ashawn Robinson,
no,
Greg Gaines, Ode Ibushi, David Edwards, Matt Gay, Levervoid, he's gone. Dixon, Mayfield, Rapp, Nick Scott, Brandon Powell, and that is it. They still consider Odell, but I don't really know why. But since he wasn't on the Rams last year, but
uh, I think we maybe get Greg Gaines back. Greg
I
Gaines
mean,
and
I think
potentially,
I think those would be the two smart moves. Would be Greg Gaines and Coleman Shelton. I mean,
yeah, I
that's about it. I mean, but
we
you're not
might be
really looking.
priced out at Greg Gaines. I think they said his free agent market's like 9 to 11 mil. Wait, we can't pay him 9 to 11 mil.
Yeah,
No way.
I think the only thing we're looking at is somewhere between 4 and 8, and 8 is like at the highest. If we can get them for 6 or 7, we might be able to do that, but that might have to be a signing bonus or something like that, to get us to that mark. I mean, the calculated values, we're looking at Taylor Rapp for some reason is looking like a $10 million, 10 million per year
Good
player.
luck to whatever team pays that contract.
Ashawn Robinson is looking about 8. Greg Gaines is 7.8. Baker Mayfield, but he's looking like he's going to the Bucks for 6.5. Well, he probably weighed more than that, but Matt Gay will probably pick up. Well, I mean, it would be a big blow, if we lose Matt Gay. Riley Dixon, to me, we know my feelings about this, not so much, but I mean, he was, again, one of those players who are just always consistent, in a game where these games are being decided by field goals, and I don't really think we want to go through another uh, you know kickers challenge, and just seems crazy.
Zach, I mean, we got a lot of new shiny picks for us to use. Kicker maybe in the cards for one of them. I just don't think we have the money to sign Gay. Like
Yeah.
crazy enough, like how they're refusing to
Well, we don't.
restructure contracts
Yeah, I mean,
as of now.
we don't have enough to pay the rookies that we even get in the draft right now, because we haven't even got under the cap space. I mean, they say that you need about 10 million to cover your rookies, from the draft, and we don't even have the money to do that yet. So there's still a lot of moves that are going to have to be made. They're going to have to restructure somebody's contract. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they're not even under the cap, and they got less than 48 hours to get that figured out.
Yeah, Zach, do you think from a PR standpoint, they're taking a lot of flack for this, and I think they were expecting this. They were expecting trade them. They're expecting the flack. Um, they maybe underestimated how angry the fan base would be. Now that doesn't matter in their eyes, but they want to turn this eventually positive. Do you think I almost feel like they may want to try to trade up in the draft and not just like from mid third round to high third round type deal. I'm talking about into the first round, probably not top 10. But I could see this team being aggressive going after offensive playmakers. It I feel like that could get the fan base excited. Do you think that could potentially be the area they're going after? Jordan
I would
Rodriguez
have.
even floated that they could trade Stafford.
I don't think that's the case. I think, I don't see a team really going after Stafford that hard to trade a first round pick for him. I think
I
that,
agree.
even in Jordan's, podcast, I mean, she was saying like, what about the Jets? Because they haven't made that final call with Aaron Rodgers. That seems like a done deal now. So, um, we're not really looking at that. I don't know what other teams really would want to pick him up, with the contract that he has, and want to take that risk. I mean, he did have a bad season last year with injury, and it was because of the offensive line. But I don't know, and I don't. McVay came back into this. I think McVay knew that he was good. They were going to keep around Stafford and Cup and Donald. I think that was always the plan going into this. Um, they don't really have many more pieces to throw at the table other than those three that could even get them to a first round pick. So I think they're just going to deal with what they have now, try to pull in as many um, rookies as they possibly can. Hopefully some of them can actually, produce and become starters. And we'll see how it goes going into the 2023 season to ramp up for the 2024 season, which, 2024 through 2026 is kind of the all in, like you were saying, let's clear the debt. Let's clear the debt. Let's move on and let's try to get us back into the Super Bowl between 2024 to 2026. That just it makes sense, and hopefully something sparks, and maybe we can make a good run for it, good run this year. But as everyone keeps kind of noting, and it's not untrue. You look at 2019, and this is kind of in the same spot that they were in. So it's
Well,
probably where
this
we're
would
looking
be
at.
2020. Last year would have been 2019.
Sure.
So, I mean, it, a little different methodology the Rams took to rebuilding that 2019 team towards trading for Ramsey, trading away assets to get these big name players. And they're just refusing to do that because they want to hold their value in the future, which is valid. I'm not attacking that. I'm just questioning trying to sell us that they want to be like still competing next year, but not making any moves to be competing. Because if this team doesn't change, don't touch it, all the free agents go,
I
you're going to have a hell of a draft to have a competitive team
For sure.
offensively.
And the Rams just don't have the money right now. So day one of the free
Oh, yeah.
agency frenzy is always going to be the big names. It's going to be the big contracts. Other than right now, the wide receivers are the only
Yeah.
area that hasn't really been touched, and that's just because there's so few great
Helps
free
us.
agent wide receivers. So really everything other than the wide receivers is kind of taking place right now. And the Rams are just seeing where people lie and what's kind of left over and what can they get, not on the budget, but kind of on the budget. They're trying to see what they can get with the money they do have. And hopefully between, that the culture being under Sean McVay and Raheem Morris, maybe they can get that kind of as part of the deal, to kind of keep convincing people that the culture that they're building is a winning culture, and that they put this one season bad behind, and let's move forward and let's try to get back to the promised land.
Yeah, I anticipate they're going to sign some low budget free agents. Uh, It'll be interesting to see the direction they go. It seems like they're going to go mostly in house for the O line, which that starting O line setup from last year, I really thought would have been an average, solid NFL O line
Yeah.
if they stay healthy. Big if.
Right. We had the problem where we hit the Bills first, and the Bills were an explosive team. And what do you say about the Bills? I mean, they were still a good contender, and
Hungry.
um, they were hungry for it. And so the Rams were still kind of hung over from that aspect. They thought what they had could work, didn't work, and then they just went downhill from there with the injuries. So it is what it is. I mean, the injuries really plagued the Rams, and it just came out that they were the most injured team in the NFL this past, with the reports from this past week. So it's none undeniable that that's what caused their failure, not necessarily the personnel that they had. So yes, you can chalk it up to the Rams had the worst Super Bowl hangover in NFL history, but I don't think any of those teams post the Super Bowl were as injured as the Rams were this past season. And there's nothing you can
Even
do
with
about it.
injuries, we still have to be honest with the problems on the team. Out even when the O line started to get somewhat healthy, still may have not been like quality wise as good as our starting five. They were good enough to see that we had problems at wide receiver. we were going to have problems all year. Stafford was having some problems, even though I don't think they're as big as people think they are. Um,
I mean, we just
the
don't know
defense,
because
entire secondary had an issue
right.
outside of Ramsey, and we got rid of our only good secondary player. Nick Scott is fine, but he's a free agent. Um, I mean, Kobe Durant was good for a rookie. Like, you better hope he makes the jump, and you're going to have to sign some veteran free agent to kind of help these rookies along because most of the rookie cornerbacks look lost outside of Kobe Durant. I mean, Zach, this team has a lot of holes, but yet they're telling me they want to compete, and
I think
this team has
we'll see
shown when
it.
they want to compete, they make trades, but they're not doing that.
But I think the Rams are going to move on. They're moving from what they've what the last couple of years they've been good at, and that was their defense. And they're going to make this the offensive show. This is Sean McVay in the Rams. This isn't Raheem Morris in the Rams. Yes, Raheem Morris is great. You know, he did well for the Rams and their defense, and he continues. And I think he's going to continue to make sure that the defense plays at its best level that it possibly can. But when you look at the Rams and you look at what Sean McVay has done since he's been in here, and this was supposed to be an offensive led team. This Sean McVay is an offensive, quote unquote genius. That's the way he thinks. That's the way he knows how to win. And if he's scoring less than 30 points per game, he probably considers that a failure. Like, we need to ramp up and we need to continue pushing that envelope. If we're going to win games, we're going to do it with our offense, not with our defense. Because clearly our defense tried their hardest, and there was games out there where they were stopping them, they were holding them to a field goal, they were stopping them in the red zone, getting turnovers, and that the offense
Chiefs
just
game.
could not do anything with it.
Yeah.
And so they want to get back to, like, if we can make our defense the bend not break all defense that we know it can be, then we need to really focus on the offense. The rookies did fine. Yes, the fans hate the bend don't break because it just is like they're just marching down the field and marching down the field and marching down the field. But we want to go back to the days where back when the Rams were against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football and they were scoring 50 points each a game. Like, that's the game McVay loves to see. He doesn't like to see these low, 17 to 20 games. Like, that's just not in him.
So, Zach, what you're telling me is the key big piece our offense has been missing was one Hunter Long from the
Yes.
Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us about our new secret weapon that Miami so foolishly sent over.
Yeah, we were trying not to make this a super long pod this time. But Hunter Long. So who is Hunter Long? Well, he was a third round pick in the 2021. He was the third tight end drafted in 2021. So the third one didn't even get picked up until the third round, which is kind of, I was saying, like, there could have been a good tight end in this draft if the Rams would have waited into the second or third round.
Yeah.
And this was the year that Kyle Pitts was drafted fourth amongst them. But so he has only had one career catch in the NFL and played 183 offensive snaps in the 2 years that he has been an NFL player. So there's
That's
not a whole
great.
lot that we can take from his NFL debut. But if you go back and you look at his Boston College, which I did before the pod, I kind of watched some of his Boston College film tape. So he caught 57 passes in the last season at Boston College in 2020. Had some impressive plays during that time. I mean, he had a lot of one-handed catches. He was actually averaging 14.6 yards per catch in college, which is really great for a tight end. And he had 28 receptions in 2019. So, you look at that tape and you're like, not too bad, but it's his NFL career. And obviously I don't follow the Miami Dolphins, so I'm not really sure how well they do in the tight end sphere, if they were just competing by that point, or he was just a defensive a blocking tight end. Um, but
Well, at that time, they were drafting a lot of receiving tight end under their previous head coach.
okay,
And whenever they brought in Mike McDaniels, they switched to a more blocking tight end, kind of like a prototype as a tight end, and that's why Mike Gesicki dropped off a cliff in production last year, and that could be another reason why at least last year Miami didn't even look his way because they were switching schemes entirely, and he didn't fit their mold. And my issue isn't necessarily with him as a player or like he could, let's say he's another George Kittle and he ends up being the best Rams tight end of history. That still doesn't make this trade a good trade because
yeah,
at this time he has no value to the Rams. You could have traded it for this guy with a fifth round pick, sixth round pick, maybe. So we traded Ramsey for a third and a sixth, or a third and a fifth, or let's go at his value, 2/3. That's still not enough, and we should have got more. But for him specifically, McVay likes taller tight ends. He wants very athletic tight ends. He wants catching tight ends. Now he wants them to be able to block too, and that's why Higbee has stuck around, and all of our other tight ends have struggled. And I'm going to be interested to see if Long can block good enough for this offense.
yeah. So we'll see what happens, but he's now on our roster behind Higby for now. So we'll just kind of have to see how the cards get played out. So kind of summarizing our draft order as of right now with all the stuff that's happened. The Rams still have their second round pick at number 36. They have 2 third-round picks, 69 and 77 from the Dolphins. Round 5, they have 167, 171, and 177. In the 6th round, they have 182, 189 from the Titans and 191 from the Packers. In the 7th round, they have a 223 from Detroit and 251.
We're going to
So
have to hit on a lot of
11,
these.
11 picks right now. So we'll see how it goes. And then kind of summarizing the free agency stuff that's kind of gone on. We've kind of already discussed a few of these, but just real quickly, Nick Scott, someone who we thought that the Rams probably could still pick up. He's kind of gotten a lot more recognition in the past couple weeks, so his value is kind of increasing. His most notable suitor right now is the Giants. So I like Nick Scott. I think he's super undervalued in the role that he played. Um, he played in all 17 games last season. 16 of them was the starting, and he played 99% of the defensive snaps. I mean, geez Louise, we're getting rid of almost every player that had played every single game in the 2022 season on defense. Some other notable stats just from him. Scott recorded 150 total tackles, 4 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles with 9 passes defended in the 4 seasons that he was with the Rams. And like I said, I just liked him. I think I've called him the sniper a bunch of times, and it just seemed to, especially in a lot of those later, the second half of the season games, that he was making the big plays. Like he was able to sniff out where those balls were being thrown, and whether he was able to deflect it or not, he was still able to get there and make the tackle. So if he does end up walking and going with another team, again, it's just one more piece of this defensive puzzle that they're going to have to solve when the safety position specifically, if you lose both of your safeties with Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott, you're really putting your secondary into a bit of a much bigger hole than you were already in. Any thoughts about Nick Scott?
I mean, I've always liked Nick Scott, a good tackler. I feel like he struggles in coverage sometimes, but overall, he was a decent NFL safety. And, The Rams have a tradition of being really good at getting safeties, and I feel like we've been going downhill a little bit slowly in the last 2, 3 years. Um, Nick Scott was a bright spot in that room, so to say, in the last 3 years. We just have to try to get back to having better safety play. It's very integral if you don't have a lockdown corner, which we do not anymore. They You thought he was bad last year, and Ramsey is getting run past. Imagine DBs that won't even realize they're getting beat. Like that's when those wide open touchdowns without Ramsey getting like overthrown and like them saying, "Oh, Ramsey lost," when in reality he's just trying to cover over someone's blown coverage. They're gonna just be out in the open and just like scoring wide open touchdowns.
I mean,
So
especially in the NFC West when, we have to do Metcalf twice a year. If D-Hop stays with the Cardinals, that's twice a year. You have Deebo Samuel, and Ayuk, with the 49ers twice a year. Like, geez Louise, this defense is gonna get tested
cooked.
beyond anyone's belief. Not to mention what the 49ers did today and how their defensive front is just going to be a nightmare for our offensive front. So, moving on from that, the Rams did do something this evening, which is interesting. But all they did was they have tendered Michael Hoyt as an exclusive rights free agent. So in 17 games, 6 starts last season, Hoyt had 4.5 tackles, which I think 3 or 4 of them were in one game. 9 QB hits, finishing with a total of 36 tackles. Um, he was playing kind of a little bit off position. He was more of an edge rusher, opposite of Leonard Floyd. So this was kind of a must, only because literally since they lost Floyd, they had nobody on the edge. Um, and if
Well,
you
they
if you
stopped putting him on the edge when they kept on running at him.
That's true. I mean I mean
They had to literally move him out of the position, like, and I don't blame him. It's not his natural position, and like
it's not.
I don't blame him for trying it. He clearly wasn't working out. He was overshooting very constantly, and they
I think
ended
that's
up
the
having to
problem.
rotate him back into the interior.
I think that was the problem is like he was quickly found out, when he had his 4 sack or 3 or 4 sack game. Um, I think he was exploited after that fact. And so like the teams just knew what to do after him. Is like, if you could just get around him, he's not going to be able to stop you. And that's what they did. They always tossed the ball out, either to a receiver or the running back. And Hoyt was just trying to get to the quarterback um, faster than and I obviously got the ball out faster than he could get there. So
Yeah, he
he had
wasn't able
no,
to read the play,
yeah,
which that's a quality people don't give Aaron Donald enough credit for. Like he knows whenever you're lining up like your potential options, what kind of plays you play out of that formation, what
sure,
you could do. And as the players are moving and you're snapping the ball, he is reading that on demand and able to make a play.
for
Um,
sure.
I'm not saying Michael Hoyt needs to be Aaron Donald. I'm just saying he lacks some of that so far ability to read the play. So hopefully he grows. I've always liked his game. I felt like he was a good depth piece, and hopefully he grows into something more like you know Joseph Day. Like we have a tradition of these D linemen kind of growing under AD and being able to carve out bigger roles.
Yes. The only two other notable notes for free agency is the Rams are not placing restricted free agent on Marcus Copeland, and then the Bucks are looking to pick up Baker Mayfield. And in that regard, that does help us out in 2024 when we could get a compensation pick from Mayfield. So
Mm. We're gonna have
that
a
is
very
all the
busy
news.
day three of the draft, Zach, both this year and next year. Tell you that.
For sure. For sure. So that's all we got for today. Trying to make it quick and short, shorter
Yep.
than normal. 34 minutes is still probably seems probably long for some people on their podcast, but we want to try to make sure that we're kind of keeping the news up to date as quickly as we can. Um, so, we may be throwing out these podcasts a little sooner than normal, depending on if there's any big news that comes up. Do you want to add anything before we wrap it up?
Nope. Go Charleston this Thursday, going against San Diego State. It is only our sixth time in the tournament, Zach, and we are 1-5. So I love our chances.
All
Love our
right.
chances. So
Well, good luck with that. I'm in Indiana, so it's either Purdue or IU. I really could care less of which one uh, goes anywhere, but Purdue is a number one seed in their bracket or in their division, so we'll see what happens. Boilermakers, Hoosiers, do something, I guess. People in my life will probably be happy. I don't know. That's all I got. I don't watch March Madness, unfortunately. So, um,
it's either that or sailing from my college. Come on, guys. I don't get a lot of choices. My college has only two sports they're good at.
I don't know if my college has ever been into the NCAA tournament. So, um, there's that. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up with this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Again, thanks everybody, guys, for sticking with us and listening to our rants sometimes. You can always find us on our Twitter. That's where we're most active. You could find mine at Zach Mayer. You could find Ashton at Ramfan Ashton 1. You can find our official Twitter account at East Coast Rams. Please make sure you like and follow all three of us. We're consistently posting about the newest Rams takes and news that keeps coming out, and just kind of seeing what we think is happening within the Rams organization. Obviously, none of us know exactly what's happening, but we can make some pretty good guesses on past experience. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. We are video. We're out there on the videos. We're not on TikTok, but we're at least we're on the YouTubes. And you can find us at youtube.com/at East Coast Rams as well. So that will do it for this week's episode. We will see you all next week. Horns up, guys.